Hey, folks, welcome to another episode, live recording of What's Bruin here on 6342 Productions. I want to welcome everyone. We have a new Stanley Cup champion. Dom would like me to remind everyone, as people keep jumping in, to go to YouTube, follow What's Bruin. It's What's Bruin 6342 on YouTube. He is getting annoyed by telling everyone every week when we're going live. So just click the little bell, get the notification, and then you'll all know. But we do this every Tuesday around this time. As always, I'm joined by the one, the only, the epic Dominic Tiano. Dom, we have a new Cup champion, as I mentioned. How are you this week with that information?
I'm doing fine. I just want to say congratulations to the Florida Panthers. Um, I was hoping for Edmonton. Really wanted McDavid to get his Stanley Cup,
I
but
think a lot of us did.
yeah.
Of
So
course, saying you're Darth
enough about
Dom.
enough about that.
Darth Dom. How did you feel about him getting the Conn Smythe?
I'm fine with it.
What about him not coming out to accept it?
I'm equally fine with that. Why take away? He knows it wasn't his spotlight. It was the Panthers' spotlight. Let them have their moment. Actually, classy of him not to come out.
I thought the way that it all happened, the way that it went down was, I don't want to say perfect because I'd rather him have won it while hoisting the cup. But all things considered, it went down with no. I didn't feel weird about it, if that makes sense. I feel like it would
No,
have been weird and felt awkward if he had to come all the way out and, the commentators were talking about why he's not coming out. And I'm like, for all we know, he's already got his skates off. Like, he just wants to
it,
go home now.
if it was in Edmonton, I would have been disappointed. But it was in Florida. They're
Yeah,
fans. Let them have their moment. Let them celebrate.
absolutely. And I had no issue with it. I thought it was the right move. And it all just fell into place the right way, is my opinion on that. So do you want to start with anything on the game, or do you want to start with what happened before the game?
I'm done with the game.
All right. Sounds good. Panthers won next season. Now, going into next season, Don Sweeney was working the phones for days and days and days. And we finally get the trigger pulled, and we get Linus Ullmark dealt to the Senators for 3 pieces. And not everybody's happy with the 3 pieces that we got in return. Should we do Dom's story time on your experience with this particular trade and knowledge that you're able to provide us? Or should we
Sure,
break down the pieces first?
well, we can start there. Like, believe you me, this is not a podcast I really want to be doing. Um, but I think that this discussion needs to take place, and because there's a lot of stuff going on and being said that isn't always fair. So we'll start with this. Like, you and I were texting as this was going down. I told you, like, Chris, I'm making phone calls. We uh you know I can't be answering questions, and trust me, my phone was going nonstop
I
with people wanting to know what was going on. I will say this: if Linus Ullmark had agreed to an extension, this deal would be totally different.
100%.
Totally different. Um, Basically, Ottawa is getting a rental, and some of the arguments that are being thrown back at me is, well, Sweeney could have got a conditional pick if Allmark re-signs or signs an extension. Well, no, he can't, because the opportunity with that went out in the memorandum of understanding when they extended the CBA. You're no longer allowed to throw in a conditional pick on the condition a player re-signs or signs an extension.
Yeah, the only way around that would have been doing a games played in 2025-26 season
No,
condition.
they couldn't even do that because
I
he
was just saying,
wasn't under contract for
I didn't even know if
25-26.
they could do that given that he
No,
didn't have
they
the contract.
can't.
So
So I want to throw water on the fire about that right off the top because it wasn't allowed. Um, Second, there was a lot of talk about Ottawa waiting because they didn't want to pay the signing bonus. I have it under very good authority that Ottawa was absolutely willing to pay the signing bonus. It was only $1 million.
as they say, $1
Uh,
million for those guys is chump change.
yeah,
It's not worth waiting on this deal.
Michael Anlauer is a multi-billionaire. He doesn't care about $1 million. What they were concerned about was that Ullmark came in at their price. So water on the fire again. Um, there were reports of several other teams interested. I will tell you right off the top, I don't know anything about Carolina. I do know about the Detroit Red Wings. Linus Ullmark was not waving to go there. I do know about the Vegas Golden Knights. He was not waving to go there. All three teams, sorry, two teams were on his no trade list. I don't know about Carolina. Toronto was another one. Everybody already knows. It's been very public that he was not waving to go to Toronto.
So it sounds like it came down to Ottawa or staying.
I don't know that there weren't others. I can only tell you what I know, and that's what I'm doing. Whether he signed an extension or not, Ottawa needed to move out roughly $4 million to make this deal happen. Obviously, we know the players that came back with the retention or the 25% retention. They're just under 4 million at roughly about 3,900,000. If you'd signed an extension, somebody was coming back at $4 million. It wouldn't have been those two.
Right.
So
yeah, the lack of extension crushed the deal for Boston.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed it. Now, I know you had put out there that you had heard Linus's camp was looking for $7 million over 5 years. $7 million per for 5 years. Now, was that something that Ottawa wasn't willing to go to, or is that something that they may still be working out on details on, and so they waited for the deal? They didn't want to wait for the deal. They just pushed it through.
I honestly can tell you I don't know what Ottawa's offer was. I can only tell you what Linus was asking for.
That's fair.
And obviously, if they were close, there'd be an extension.
We would probably be talking about a different deal because there was no need to rush the deal right before Game 7. Like they announced it today. If it was, we just need an extra day or two to sort out the signing bonus structure or something like that. Clearly, they were far enough apart that Anlauer and Staios are looking at it going, we have a bridge guy to get to. I mean, they're still high on Mads Sogaard, who's in the American Hockey League.
But you also got to remember, maybe Ottawa would have met his price, and Linus just didn't want to sign until he sees how things go. There's a difference going to Ottawa as a new player than going to Boston as a free agent like Ullmark did 3 years ago, because Boston has the reputation. Players around the league talk about how great it is. So kind of knew what he was getting into.
And he was also coming to a team that still had Bergeron, Krejci, Marchand,
Right.
Pasternak, McAvoy. Like, he was coming to a team that was loaded that you would look at and go, they're a goalie away from being in serious competition for a cup.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're Linus Ullmark, you have to believe that you are that goalie. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Bear Force One wants to know: could a team get a conditional pick if the player in question is still on the roster after the trade deadline?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the CBA.
And Court wants to know if there was a trade that did not involve Korpisalo.
Yes.
I think
But it involved an extended Linus Ullmark.
that's what I figured as much. I truly believe that this deal is extremely different. You might still have what's his name, that prospect, the bottom six forward. I'm still getting used to his name.
Mark Kostelic?
Thank you. You might still have Kostelic in the deal, but he'd be the only piece that was the same if Ullmark had an extension. Brendan says, I'm a little surprised the Bruins couldn't get at least another mid-round pick in the deal. Brendan, compare this deal to the Markstrom deal, and it actually makes a lot more sense. You got Kostelic, who's a forward. You didn't need the defenseman, but if you really look at the two, they are very similar as far as value. You still get a first-round pick, but the difference is Markstrom has term. He's a guaranteed cost for this year and I believe 2 more. So
no, that's what's his name. Went to
Markstrom.
LA.
No, Kemper. Kemper has 3 years. Markstrom has 2 years.
Right.
So you have 2 years with Markstrom, and so that increases his value. He's also played more games than Linus when he's healthy. He's a true starter as opposed to a split starter. So there's value there. That's why you got a lower pick, and you still had to make the money work. That if it fell upon Boston to make the money work at that point. Otherwise, no deal. And so in order to do that, as you're making this move, you have to look at their goaltenders. Well, you look at yours and you go, we're getting rid of one. We need someone in return. And Forsberg wouldn't make the money work. I wouldn't have minded as much if they got Forsberg instead of Korpisalo, just because I think he's more of a he's been more of a sure thing for a good 30, 35 starts a season, minus his health being in question. But the money just didn't work that way. Korpisalo's had good seasons. Like, everybody is acting like this guy is dead and buried and has no future whatsoever. Like, the team in front of him last year in Ottawa was hot garbage. Look at what he did in LA. He played very well after that deadline in LA.
Chris, like, hold on. Because, when all the talk was about Chychrun, everybody was bringing up his plus minus, and everybody at that time was saying, well, look at the goaltending behind him. It's hot garbage. They can't make a save. Now that we got the goaltender, everybody's saying, well, look at the team in front of him. We can't have it both ways.
I never said that about Chychrun.
No,
I know a lot of people,
but
I know a lot of people.
This is the argument that's out there, and I don't want to argue one argument with another argument when they could both be entirely true. Yeah. I will tell you why they chose Korpisalo, because A, they needed to make the money work, and B, because Bob Essenza probably said, and I would bet my mortgage on it, probably said, yes, let's get him. I can work with him. I can turn him around. You go back to Bob Essenza's record, way back to Anton Hudobin, Jarl Halak, even Svedberg for one season. Like, go on and on and on, and Essenza has done magic with the goaltenders. So I think when we saw the Brandon Bussey contract signing yesterday, that the writing was on the wall, that they were looking for a veteran goaltender. Mm-hmm. The fact that Bussey got a 1-year, 2-way contract speaks volumes to what they think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, in my opinion, when I saw that two-way contract, it to me, yes, he has to go through waivers, but I mean, the guy doesn't have a single game of NHL experience under his belt. So the other 31 teams have to look at him and go, he is guaranteed NHL starter or backup. We should claim him. He is good to go. And that's a pretty big gamble if you have to keep him on your roster for the whole season at that point. So for a guy who's never played in the NHL, I think you can squeak him through waivers.
It's all about timing, but
Exactly.
they're going to give him and DiPietro a chance to win the spot in Boston. And if so be it. If they win a spot, then Corpusalo's going down to Providence.
Yeah, his contract isn't that bad at $3 million. It
No,
really
they'll save 1 million. I don't know the number for next season, but based on last year, they'll save 1,075,000 on the cap.
yeah, which is helpful. It's not perfect, but it's helpful. If he's outperformed by Bussy and or DiPietro,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Richard says Corpusalo was a pretty negative asset. No, shouldn't that have helped Boston get more? I would make the case that's why you settled on the 25th overall pick and not a second rounder.
Exactly.
Because based off of the Markstrom contract, the Markstrom trade, you would have gotten a lesser pick, so probably a second rounder, and you would have gotten the forward. The fact that you were willing, or the fact that you took on Corpusalo with only 25% retained, and he was he was deemed the negative asset in the deal. Don Sweeney was able to go, I don't want a second rounder if I'm taking $3 million back. I want a first rounder. That's why they settled on 25. It was because Ottawa can sit there and go, well, we still have 7 overall, so we'll give you your pick back. And that's where you do the deal. Now, the extension for Ullmark, had there been one in place, completely changes the equation because now you're not trading a rental goaltender, you're trading a guy with term. And I said that from day one. I was like June 2nd or something. I responded to someone on X, and I was like, the crucial part is the extension for Ullmark. People need to temper their expectations because people were thinking Chychrun and a first, and just going, here's Linus Ullmark, thank you very much. And it's like, if you had the extension, sure, you're having those conversations. Without it, though, he's a rental.
Mm-hmm.
Matrix says, after some research, Kostelic, not sure of correct spelling. He will surprise a lot of people. Very gritty, heavy, big body, fast forward, good at face-offs. We will come back to Kostelic in a minute and kind of everything else they got in the package. Matt wants to know, do you think the Bruins will try and use that first-round pick for another trade, i.e. McGrody? Though I believe it would take a little more than just that pick. I'm just trying to get us caught up on a few. We'll go over some of those scenarios, what they can do.
Well, just go back to that one because it's a quick one. I have no clue what the Bruins intend to do with it.
Yeah,
No clue whatsoever. My belief is that they're going to use the pick.
I think so. I think they'll pick at 25. I mean, Pastrnak was 25th overall.
Yep.
So, like, you can still get good players. Let's see. Bear Force One even says, at least we were back in the first round of the draft. There could be a steal at 25 with a guy like Letourneau. Sure. There's going to be some good players available. I think they make the pick. However, you could package it with something and try to move up. You could package it for something and try to get a player. There's a lot that you can do with it. I'm not that worried about the first round pick. Richard Murray, Sweeney's always had to pay other GMs to take our garbage, so this makes no sense. You're
okay.
There's
no debating that.
Yeah, I mean, no one's doing you any favors. You're the Boston Bruins. You have a reputation of being a competitive team year in and year out. Like, no one's doing you any favors. Like, it is what it is. I think the price of making the money work should have been another mid-rounder, but I guess based on what Dom's saying, they didn't have the leverage to do that. So if they wanted the first, this was it. Exactly. Exactly. You have to look at where you have leverage. Let's see. Mike says, my opinion is the Bruins did okay with the trade, though market for goalies, tough market for goalies. Also, we got Ullmark for money and turn him into first-round pick, backup goalie, and fourth-line guy similar to Maroon, not bad. Bonded lock service.
Let's look at it this way, okay? Here's the way to look at it. Let's say Jeremy Swayman comes in at $8 million.
Yeah.
Okay? Just for simple math. And they didn't trade Ullmark. That meant you're paying $13 million for goaltenders. Okay? You don't have a first round pick, and you don't have your Pat Maroon replacement. So
Right.
you've now got to go out and sign a Pat Maroon replacement, let's say $1 million. So now there's 14 million bucks. So this trade got you a backup goalie. Jeremy Swayman at $8 million is 11, plus your Pat Maroon replacement at less than $1 million. So you're under 12 million bucks.
It netted you some savings on the overall.
It netted you almost $3 million. Plus, it got you a first round pick. Plus, you don't have to fill a hole through free agency.
Yeah, it's one less hole you have to fill. Bonded Lock Services says Sweeney lost the stare down. First rounder should have been the higher one. There's a huge difference between 7 overall and 25. You were not getting 7 overall, just like you were not getting Shane Pinto. They poured cold water on Shane Pinto from day one. Ottawa did.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Sweeney's doing his job by saying, I want Pinto. That's his job. But
if Ullmark was signed, there would have been a discussion there.
Sure. And there would have been a discussion about 7th overall, probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you lost your leverage because you had no extension in place for Ullmark. And Boston can't sign him to one until July 1st. You could try to come up with the framework of one, but it's... I also, from what he was saying, it doesn't sound like he's okay with just playing out the year in Ottawa and seeing where it goes.
I believe so.
And I truly think that's what's going to happen. I don't think he re-signs in Ottawa right away, at least. Maybe after the trade deadline if they're competitive. But, I mean, here's my question. Would you want to commit to Ottawa long-term based off of the last couple of years that they've had? I wouldn't. If I have the option to wait a year, I would wait. Michael says, Boston getting the first-round pick is great. Take best player available, not based on need. Cam says, with them adding Korpisalo, do you see a path for Bussy or DiPietro to beat him out at camp for the backup spot? I think they'll all be given a chance for it.
Yeah, I think they will.
And the best guy will take it, and the other two will go through waivers to get to the minors. That's it. Plain and simple. Internal competition. The roster spot's open. You got 3 guys. That's it. It is what it is. Mike says, also remember when the Bruins signed Ullmark in free agency, social media blew up that the Bruins were crazy. Work out good for the Bruins. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You turn them into 2 players and a pick. I'll take it. There should have been a provision that if he signs in Ottawa before October 1st, the Bruins get another pick.
Already explained. Can't do that.
You can't do that. So
you can't. There's no conditional picks allowed for a player re-signing. It changed when the collective bargaining agreement was extended.
Yeah, it is what it is. If they could have, they would have. I can almost guarantee you that. Sweeney's not that stupid. Let's see. Court adds in, tweet about Letourneau at 25 has caught fire. If they take him, I should buy a lottery ticket. Is Kostelic like a right-handed Beecher? What are some player comps?
I don't like doing player comps. To me, he's the replacement for Maroon. I think he's better at face-offs. He's more physical. He's not as great. I'll tell you what, Kostelic has some straight line speed. Let's not forget that. He'll stand up for his teammates. He's not afraid to drop the gloves.
There's a solid fight video of him fighting Arbor Jacki, one of the toughest guys in the league,
Yeah.
and holding his own. Like, he's fine. Like, I have no issues with him in this deal.
No.
Honestly, I think that's an underrated pickup.
And he's been a captain before in junior, so he's got leadership qualities. It's just he's going to come in cheaper than Maroon. He can be a mean physical son of a bitch, and they need that.
And if he can put himself through camp, you could easily see Kuntar, Beecher, and Kostelik on that fourth line.
I think we'll see Kostelik at center and Beecher on left wing.
I was going to say that they could interchange at the faceoff. I mean, I don't mind having two guys that can take faceoffs on that line, because also you ran into an issue this past year where you didn't have guys you could rely on to take faceoffs on both sides. Beecher's left shot, if I recall correctly. Kostelik is right shot. So now if you need to win a faceoff in the last minute and a half of a game, and you have the ability to put a fresh line out there, you can put one of those guys out there based on where the faceoff is. You didn't have that option last year. Take the faceoff and get them off the ice if you can. Like, you have two guys that you can do that with. You don't have Bergeron, you don't have Noshik anymore. You need guys like this that can take faceoffs, who can do other things and bring other value to the table. And he does. Merkulov and Lysell are done in Boston, aren't they? Because Monty won't let them play. It's not all Monty's call. Sweeney's the one who designates who comes up and goes down, and that's done in conjunction with Ryan Mujanel and his staff.
Right.
And Merkulov did come up, and Monty did play him, and he showed he wasn't ready. Fabian Lysell's attitude has kept him down in Providence. He has not earned and been afforded the right to play in the NHL because of his attitude. He turned it around after getting called out by Mujanel last season, but then he got hurt. So we need to see what Lysell comes into camp like this year. What's his attitude? How does he deal with things? And can he make that jump? This is all on Lysell at this point. It's not a matter of will they let him play. It's, does he deserve the chance, and has he earned it? Michael then adds, Swayman doesn't have the resume for $8 million, but DeBrusk does for $6 million. He was just giving an example. So let's move on. Joe says, we lost the trade hands down. I think he came out pretty even. Without an Ullmark extension, I think it's a pretty fair deal on both sides. Now, if he resigns tomorrow or on the 1st, yeah, I think you could have done a little bit better. But again, without the ability to put a condition on the re-sign, there's nothing you could do. And if you were trying to get into the first round for this year, this deal had to be done before Friday or by Friday. It had to. And if anything, Staios could have waited long enough where he goes, you know what? We're good. We don't need him. We'll call Vegas and we'll try and get Thompson. We'll call Detroit, try and get Lyon. Like, he could have changed his mind on his target. So once you have a deal that's fair, pull the trigger. Let's see. What are some other names we should look out for at the 25 range? Appreciate it. Oh, wow. I'm much further behind on the comments than I thought. Let me get...
I have a Bruin specific draft coming out Thursday morning. Dom.Hockey. Check it out Thursday morning.
Yep, and you can see it scrolling down on the bottom. Dom.Hockey is in there. Let's see. Then Joe says, just keep Ullmark at this point. No, you still saved on the cap.
Joe, you have some pretty strange takes on Twitter all the time, on X. I just explained in a long tirade why they needed to.
Right.
So if you missed it, when it comes out on YouTube, rewind it and watch it again.
Or it'll come out as pod. Look it up, Apple Podcast, Google Play, whatever, your Spotify, whatever way. It's right there at the beginning in the first, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So but no, you had to deal them. Period. End of story. There wasn't enough cap room to keep both. Now, if Swayman comes in somehow at 6.5,
Let's not recover it,
but
Chris. He can
not
go
worth
back and watch it when it comes out.
G says, I think that many don't get is the vast difference between a rental or term, plus most don't get there are no conditional deals anymore, re-sign / extension, which we were talking about. Beast pretty much got best they could.
Yep.
I'm underwhelmed because I thought there would be an extension, but as a family man, I can understand Linus waiting to see what Ottawa has to offer as far as a lifestyle. Makes total sense.
Exactly.
Come
Hit
on,
it right
guys.
on the
They're
head.
not going to bury Jonas in the minors after trading for him. Terrible trade. No, they absolutely could. If he's outplayed by Bussy or outplayed by DiPietro, his contract is very reasonable to put down in the minors.
Joe, they could even buy him out and cost $350,000 this year. Don't think that Don Sweeney doesn't have the balls to do that.
Oh, absolutely, he does.
Don't think
100%.
like, come
I
on,
even looked at it,
Joe.
and the very first thing I did was I looked and I said, "How bad is this buyout?" Like it ain't perfect. You don't want to have to carry dead money, but Minnesota's had an overall competitive team, and they've been dealing with $15 million in dead cap because of buyouts. You can handle 1.7 in 3 years when the cap has gone up more than it is now. The buyout's an option, and that's just getting rid of him. Cam says Kostelik fought Arbor and Wilson. Yep, he's fought some of the best fighters in the game. He's no Matt Tkachuk. He's not going to shy away from real fighters. We'll put it that way. Tara Viden and Martinook are two guys that seem like Boston guys. Yeah. Court, I like Beecher. I like Beecher too. I think he's the guy that you can kick over to the wing, though. Much easier. Beecher, Kostelik, and I think Kuntar can make it. It's a viable option. And you still have Lauko, by the way. I know Lauko's name got tossed around in this deal as well. I had heard his name. I know, Dom, I think you had heard his name mentioned.
I'm
Obviously,
the one who mentioned it here.
Yeah, obviously it didn't come to fruition. So you still have Lauko as well.
Again, that was an extended Linus.
Exactly. Hi guys, Kostelik is listed as center. Do you guys know if he's played some wing? Because I don't see where he would fit in at center with Beecher and Poitras probably playing as bottom six center.
He can play right wing.
I was gonna say they don't get guys who only do one thing for the most part. Like Pasta's a right winger and Marchand's a left winger at this point with a little bit of center experience, but beyond that, they get guys that go across the lineup. Dom, what are you hearing about Elias Lindholm and the Bruins in free agency? Well, I mean, we went
because they can't talk.
Tampering.
Anybody who tells you that they're hearing anything, Nicholas, is lying to you, because there can be no conversation between the Bruins and Elias Lindholm at this time.
Brendan says, mean, physical, son of a bitch with speed and can take face-offs in the bottom six I can get behind. Absolutely. Beecher, Kostelik, Brazeau could be a nasty fourth line. Absolutely. Again, with Lauko in the mix and Kuntar even in the mix, there's 5 guys battling it out for bottom 3 role, and they all are capable of doing it. Matrix says Beecher, Kostelik is going to cook. Maybe. I mean, they got to find the net first.
Totally different players, though. Totally different.
Dom, what are you hearing about Lindholm in free agency? We just went over that. Do we know where Lysell is in summer, at home or in Boston?
He went home, and I believe he is heading back to Boston next week.
Does he qualify for the development camp still?
Yes.
Do you think he'll be there? Because we haven't gotten official roster for that yet.
I don't know.
Let's see. Who do you guys think they pick up in free agency? Thank you. There's a lot of names. And like Dom said, no one can officially talk right now. So there's just not a lot. I think they're going to make a swing for Elias Lindholm. I think they have to. And they know that. And then beyond that, that's going to try and be their home run swing. Anything after that is going to come secondary because they know they need the center. They're going to go after some guys, but we'll have to see. No problem with Kostelik. Hate that they didn't get the higher pick. It wasn't available. Not for an unsigned Linus. Period. When you trade a Vezina goalie, you rarely win, but you can do all right. And that's what they did here, Court. I agree. You're not going to win a deal when you're dealing away the better player in the deal. It is what it is. Let's see. I'm mock drafted out with the NBA and NHL. Dom, is the draft week after 10, like some are suggesting this year?
There's Celebrini. He's one. I would put the next tier at 15 to 18. So you're at pick 19. And then you've got the next tier before there is a drop off. So they're going to get a player at 25.
And to be clear, not someone who's going to jump into the lineup next season.
No.
But they'll
No.
get someone who can contribute down the road. So, they should be anyway. I guess Dean Letourneau at 25 for the Bees. Jet Lurchenko could be another solid pick if he's there at 25.
Lurchenko won't be there.
Looks like Lauko time on the team could be in trouble going forward. I mean, he had a huge scoring drought this year, so he's got to find a way to put some points up if he wants to stick around.
They tried to move him.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, he's got to do something in camp to stick around. Like, he could be this year's AJ Greer. Waived during camp. The buyout isn't bad. Plus, Riley will be coming off. So there's that. Also, they could try and flip him with retention. Again, not carrying much. Yeah.
Very possible.
Absolutely. And the other thing is they don't have to flip him in year one. Get him in. Let him work with Baba Senza. Get other teams to look at him and say, oh, he can still do this. He is a good goaltender. And then you can flip him at the deadline. You can flip him next year. That's where the term helps you. You can appreciate the asset and move on from him when it's more beneficial to you. Let's see. I came in late, hence my questions. Anybody would like to see them target that no one is talking about? I mean,
no.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, there's depth guys that we could go over and stuff like that, but you got to take care of the big business first. You got to get that the best center that you can.
Yep, exactly.
Robert wants to know if you are Italian.
Si, Calabrese.
Michael wants to know, is Bravaro going back to school or will he be in Providence?
He's in Providence.
And then Court says, look like the Bruins might even draft a CHL kid.
And you know what, Court? No, seriously, this really deserves some time spent on it.
Sure. I'm caught up on the comments, so take your time with it.
Court,
it's a little while for me to get there.
It's got nothing to do with me being Canadian or the fact that I covered the Ontario Hockey League or anything like that. We know what the prospect pool is like. You can't draft a kid out of the USHL at 25, pick 25, and have to wait up to 5 years for him to turn pro. Okay? You want a kid out of the CHL that you can turn pro in 2 years. And that's the way I'm looking at it. I've always said that the draft is cyclical. You go every couple of years, you go heavier on Europeans and NCAA players where you can wait up to 5 years, even 6 now with some Europeans. And then every couple of years, you go heavy CHL where you're bringing them in 2 years. And you've got to do that to keep the prospect pool going.
Yeah. Let's see. Court says, love it. We can watch the kid together.
Yeah. If it's an OHL kid.
Right. Alex says, I worry they're going to overpay hard for Lindholm. It's July after all. Who will be 30 and seems more like a 2C than a 1C? Here's the thing with that, Alex. And right now you bring in Elias Lindholm at any dollar amount. He is your best center, period, end of story. Bringing in Elias Lindholm also allows you to move Pavel Zacha over to the wing. So now you've upgraded a wing spot and you've upgraded a center spot in one move. So I understand where you're saying an overpay is a concern. They're not dropping $10 million on Elias Lindholm. That's not where their mind is at. If he's getting offers for 8.5, and you come in and you are able to get him for 8.5. That's what he was going for. That's not an overpay. So we'll have to know what other teams were offering him before we know whether or not it's an overpay, and you have to land him first.
Well,
Priority
he turned down 7x7 from Vancouver. I
right.
actually think Boston could get him at 7x7.
I don't disagree. You look at the Vancouver lineup up and down the middle, and I'm a third line guy. If you look at Boston, I'm a top line guy. I'm getting top power play minutes. I've got David Pastrnak on my wing. Like, that's a much better position to be in.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the tax difference.
Yeah, and it's also not like we learned this with Linus. If you weren't paying attention enough, then I'm sorry, but it's not always about every dime and dollar. These players are competitive. They want a chance to win. They want their money, yes, but that 500 grand to be the top line guy and have a chance to win, or be a third line guy and have a chance of winning, but also having a chance to potentially have the team blown up during your tenure, because most teams have that roller coaster experience. They're good for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they're back down in the dumps for 2 or 3 more years. A lot of teams do that. Boston isn't one of them. Vegas isn't one of them. Tampa isn't one of them. Those are the teams that players want to go to. Toronto isn't one of them. Now, there's other reasons why you may not want to go to Toronto, but the point being is if you want a chance to win, you want to get on a team that is consistently in the playoffs, and that finishing in a wild card spot is considered a down season.
Mm-hmm.
Cap's going up, and Pasta needs some talent to play with. Absolutely. And yeah, maybe he can become your 2C down the road, but it would be a lot better. And as Bear Force 1, Zacha, Lindholm, Pasta is a lot better than Heinen, Zacha, Pasta. Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Dan Heinen. We both do. But woof.
I just want to say to Court here, okay, and anybody else who's interested in the draft, at pick 25, go do some reading on Marek Vanacker, Marek Vanacker, Vanacker.
I will have to look that name up after. Let's see. Robert wants to know, do you think Boston will make another trade this offseason? Appreciate the compliment, Robert. Tune in on YouTube. Check off the bell. Get notified when we do this every week. And it's always fun. I don't think Don's done. I don't think Sweeney's done.
Whether he makes another trade or not remains to be seen. But he's going to be busy July 1.
Oh, for sure. I don't think he's done in the trade department either. I think there's one other move at least coming. Let's see. Dom, do you know who the Bruins interviewed at draft camp?
They interviewed just about everybody that's a potential first rounder.
Let's see. Is there any updates on DeBrusk out there staying or gone? Do you have any new information from the last time we were on the airwaves? Let me start with that question.
What did I say last week?
The bridge was closing, but nothing imminent.
Yeah, it's not getting any closer.
I didn't think so. I think it. I don't remember if we mentioned this on the show last week, but I truly believe that going into last year, there was an offer on the table. The DeBrusk camp said, I think we can do better. I want to prove it to you. He had the year he had. And then they went back and said, we want to sign the deal. And Sweeney said, no, that deal is now changed to this. And they said, that's not good enough. We can find better on the market. And Sweeney said, okay, call me when you're ready. Like, that seems to have been what has happened, or something close to it. And now,
yeah, for all intents and purposes, he's going to free agency. Simple as that.
Let's see. Court says he's a Hamilton boy, 6'1" left winger. Sounds like he beats people up. 36 goals last year. BG, I think you'll have to look into him. I think Court and has just done some scouting for us. So sounds like a Bruin already.
He's a Bruin, all right.
So
And he already wears black and gold, so
we know he looks good in the right colors. So all right. It positive that you got in the first round, positive that you got to forward back. We already know what the rest of the shopping list looks like. Where do we go from here? Korpisalo, like, I get it. People aren't thrilled by it, but the deal just happened. Give him a chance. First of all, give Don Sweeney a chance. If he's got another move up his sleeve, let him make it. Give Korpisalo a chance to come in. Like,
give Bob a sense of the chance to work with him. I was listening to Andrew Raycroft this morning, I think, or this afternoon, and he loves the deal. I'm not as flattered about it as he is, obviously, but he loves the deal, so he also thinks a sense it can work wonders.
I believe Korpisalo has a career save percentage of around 900, and he has under 300 games played, and most of those games were in Columbus and in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't exactly had the best teams on the ice in front of him. And I know what we were talking about when it comes to Ottawa last year and the argument of Chychrun having bad goaltending behind him. But this guy in general screams Linus Ullmark in Buffalo. When Linus Ullmark signed, there were a lot of people going, why the hell did we give him this kind of money? Like, the stats exist, and you need to know which ones to look at. Yes, goals against average is important. His career goals against average is hovering around 3. Not nearly as good as someone like Linus Ullmark. However, a goals against average of 306 in 276 games versus a goals against average of, I think Linus is somewhere around 276 over 325 or 365 games or something like that. That's not as far apart as you would think, especially given the fact that the save percentages are around the same. If you're stopping 90% of your pucks, you have a chance on a good team. And the Bruins team is a hell of a lot more talented in front of Korpisalo than the Ottawa team was when it comes to their defensive structure. So give the guy a chance. That's all I'm saying. Dom says, name 2 free agents that...
No, I didn't say that. She's asking me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Name 2 free agents that you yourself would target other than Lindholm.
Stevenson and Toffoli.
I can't disagree with those. Really like the idea of Toffoli. Also, I wanted to... I'll come back to it in a minute. There's a name I want to run by you. Is that the correct spelling for Joel? Merrick Vanacker?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's see. Probably obvious statement. Ullmark extension was impossible considering neither Ullmark or Sens would do Boston any favors to improve and make Ottawa weaker. I'm guessing deal already made. I mean...
We'll see. We'll see. Like, if Ullmark comes out and signs an extension next week, it's going to look really bad.
Right. For him, his agent, and the Senators.
Right. If he does not sign and he walks after a year, then Don Sweeney comes out smelling like roses.
Absolutely. And let's also, he was willing to waive the no trade to go to Ottawa. He also saw the writing on the wall of being a 35-game starter next year in Boston. He goes to Ottawa. He takes over the starting role. He's going to get 50 to 60 games.
Yeah.
Minimum. They may work him like they work Sergei Bobrovsky. They may work him like he's Connor Hellebuck up there. And that can really increase his value going into free agency again. So, makes sense. Chance we still see a surprise deal take place. Maybe we see Frederick more expendable now. Not that I would move him, but I'd be curious what he can fetch if they can't extend him. We've talked about Frederick before. He's one that I think they will explore to move. Not that I would want to deal him as well, but he's got trade value, and I'd like to keep him. I want him on the left side of Matty Poitras when he comes back. I would love that third line of Poitras in between Geeky and Frederick. That'd be great for the next season.
Do you have the lineup I sent you earlier with the cap?
Yes, I got to pull it. But there was another name I mentioned I was going to come back to. Michael is asking if Jeff Skinner gets bought out or Kalen Addison, would they fit in Boston?
I would look at Skinner.
If he's bought out, I'd absolutely look at him.
Yeah, but it depends on the dollars.
The other name that I was looking at, again, dollar dependent, I think you might be able to get him fairly inexpensively, would be Dominic Kubalik.
I think they can do better.
Again, dollar amount pending. If you can get him for a very, I'd rather have him come in than bring Danton Heinen in for the same money.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But
I think the scoring ceiling for Kubalik is higher.
He's got a good first name, but no, I'd be on Michael's side there and take Skinner.
Oh, I'd rather take Skinner
10 times out of 10.
For sure, I'd rather have Skinner.
But okay, if that's the type of guy we want, why are we getting Kubalik? There's no room for him.
All right, sorry, Court. I was asking. He's someone who I think has.
I know, but
scoring upside. But
if we're going to bring up a name like that, like these lower guys, who are they going to replace?
Well, okay. If you move out Frederick, Kubalik could be a decent replacement.
Not as good.
Not as good, but if
so why are we doing it?
Depends on what you get for Freddie, because I'd rather keep Freddie.
But Freddie isn't giving you anything in the top 6 in a trade.
No.
Okay, so we're back to square one.
I don't know. Maybe
we're throwing money around in the wrong places.
Yeah, maybe we are. That's why I was asking the question. Get your thoughts on it. And
there's my answer.
Army knife, absolutely.
Hayden cuts his hair with a Swiss Army knife.
Does he cut it at all?
No, he does with a Swiss Army knife.
Let's see. Dom, would you take Skinner over Toffoli?
Yes.
Yeah, Skinner has to be made available for you, though. Let's see. Thoughts on a Rat top 6, Marchand, Domi, Bertuzzi, and Bunting? No. No.
That's 4. No, not at all. Absolutely not.
Morgan Geeky extension incoming ? Also, thank you guys for doing this. Absolutely. Like Michael has said, every week we're here. You can find us on X if you want to keep watching us on there, but also YouTube. At the YouTube is What's Bruin 6342, or the links are everywhere. It's scrolling across the bottom as well. So it looks like I've offended Court. I'm sorry, Court.
Well, most of these guys we're talking about extensions for are not signing extensions July 1.
No,
they're the type of guys you sign to extensions after trade deadline.
Yeah, Skinner would get 25 goals plus in Boston easily. I agree. I think he would. Absolutely. I wonder if you could package Frederick, a prospect, and a pick to St. Louis for, I believe he means Buchnevich, but I think it's going to cost you more than that.
Yeah.
Because you're not the only, if you were the only team fishing around for Buchnevich, then maybe, but there are 31 other teams or 30 other teams who would want to be in on that deal.
Yeah.
So your price is going to be a lot more than that. That's the thing, is he's not a secret around the league anymore. And I do have, I got it pulled up here. I did not download it and upload it for being able to pull it up on the screen. But we can work our way from the bottom of the lineup up, because we've already talked about one of the lines, Beecher, Kostelic, and Brazeau. That's a fourth line where not anyone costs you. Your most expensive guy on that fourth line is John Beecher at $925,000. Court out on a limb, maybe, says Frederick gets 20 goals next year.
I can see it.
There's a path for it for sure. I think he's getting better and better each of the last 2-3 seasons. So I could see it for sure. Third line that you have on here: Frederick, Poitras, Geekie. Frederick at 2.3, Poitras on his ELC, and Geekie at $2 million. Solid third line and does not break the bank for you at all. Then you have your second line of Marchand, Coyle, and Lauko.
Lauko's only there as a placeholder till they get somebody else.
Knowing you, he's a placeholder.
He's a placeholder.
And then Zacha, blank space at center, and Pasternak. Now you also have Patrick Brown on here for $800,000. And then Boquist obviously is arbitration eligible. Do we know if there's a hint about whether or not he'll go to arbitration?
Don't know. They can't file yet, so.
Do you think he is someone worth taking to arbitration?
No, it's more likely he would file.
That makes sense.
Like, there's no reason for the Bruins to take him to arbitration.
Yeah, Boquist isn't signed right now. That's what we're talking about. He's not signed.
I could just see the Bruins taking Boquist to arbitration. Boquist wants $800,000, and the Bruins are only offering $775,000, and they can't reach an agreement, and it goes to the arbitrator.
And the arbiter is like $1 million.
Yeah, it's like.
Brett wants to know, Dom, what percentage you think it is that Jake DeBrusk and the Bruins come to terms?
0.1.
Can you go negative? Is that allowed?
No.
Then zero
is
enough for me.
Brett, honestly,
it's a divorce.
Last weekend, a weekend ago, because I mentioned it on the show last weekend, that I was told that the gap had closed, but nowhere near enough that a deal was imminent. And my understanding is that all the movement came from Jake DeBrusk, which tells me he wants to stay. And now the latest I've heard is they're not any closer. So
Court says, bye-bye, Jakey boy. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Yeah. I mean, I would like if he could come down a little bit more, but, you got to get him at the right
time. If he could, they'll keep talking. But
for sure.
If he comes down anymore, he's getting bad advice then from his agent.
Probably. Yeah, I would agree. Let's see. BJ says that's a lot of right-hand centers, but lines with multiple left hands that can take draws.
Yeah, it is. If you look at the third line, all three of them can take face-offs. The fourth line, you got Kostelic and Beecher that can take face-offs. The second line I worry about because it's only Charlie Coyle there. And the first line you'll have Zacha or whoever.
Yeah. And real quick, before we dive into the defensive part of this lineup, you have, 12 forwards signed up. You have one opening at the forward position, arguably two, I guess you could say, if you want to carry 13 forwards. Or would that be 14? But, I mean, right now you need one more forward, period, end of story. That's a need. Defensively, you have Lohrei, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Wotherspoon, and Peak, which we all are pretty much aware of. Nitpicky, the only thing I would say is I'd rather Lohrei with Carlo, Lindholm, and McAvoy, but I don't really care enough to get into that argument right now. Let's get them all on the ice and see how they look together. And then
I still want another veteran left shot defenseman.
Oh, absolutely. I would too. I'm saying as far as those top four, nitpicking who's partnered with who, I'm not doing that conversation right now. Let's get them on the ice first, and then we can do that. I would much rather have Parker Wotherspoon underneath Andrew Peak on the right side. Ian Mitchell would be the next guy on. So he's your, let's see, third, fourth, fifth guy on the right side. I'm okay with that. That means you need one more guy on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two needs that we're at right now. Two needs. And then Korpisalo.
Well, three. So you have three. You need that center. You need somebody for the second line right wing.
The Lauco replacement. You're right.
And
I apologize. I missed that one. And then the
lefty. The lefty. The lefty is.
Yeah, the lefty is probably going to be the cheapest piece.
Yeah,
or could end up being the cheapest piece. And then you got Swayman, who is arbitration eligible. You're trying to get the deal done. Period. He's your starter, clear cut, and then Korpisalo. With all the guys that I just mentioned, you still have $21.5 million in cap space. Brett Wotherspoon plays left on his offside. He is a right side defenseman. He can play left, but you don't want him to spend the entire season there. He is a right shot D. You want him on the right side. Let's see. Could you see them signing both Lindholm and Stevenson? I don't think they'll get both.
No.
I don't think so. G makes a comparison. Jake DeBrusk sounds like Krug negotiations all over again. Michael then says Danlock, Mellis, and Chris Pelosi will be Bruins rosters in 5 years. Not sure if that has to do with what we're going over right now, but we've talked about them a lot during our prospect special. Do you want to just comment real quick and we'll move on?
I wouldn't be surprised if Danlock Mellis is traded at some point.
Interesting.
Like you got to remember, you say 5 years away. Well, who's there in 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay, you got Pelosi, you got Hendrickson, you got Patra, you got whoever they sign as a free agent. I'm sure I'm forgetting some others. You got Beecher. Like, where's there going to be room for him?
Yep.
Like, Locke Mellis is not a multi-positional player at this point. He's a straight centerman.
And you may need him in 5 years, but you may have a replacement for him. So we'll see. Let's get through this offseason and then next year first. Let's see.
I want to go back to what Wally said about
Jake DeBrusk negotiation.
Yeah, sounding being very familiar to the Krug situation, and that's a good point because they're very similar in a lot of ways. But what we do know is that DeBrusk back last September was talking. I forget if it was the Boston Globe or whatever it was, about how bad he wanted to stay in Boston and that was the place and that he really, really liked it there. And then 2 weeks later, Don Sweeney comes out and says, well, Jake DeBrusk needs to decide whether he wants to be a Boston Bruin or not. Mm-hmm. And then we know what the end of season comments were. So at the time, they had made Krug an offer, and they decided to wait till the end of the year to revisit it, and then the Bruins just told him it was no longer on the table. I think the difference with DeBrusk is that the Bruins have a hard number, and they're not moving from it with DeBrusk. And DeBrusk seems to be making some adjustments to what he wants, but not near enough, and the Bruins aren't making any.
Yeah, that's definitely how it seems to be going. Let's see. If Bruins lose Brandon Bussey to another team via waivers, is that a huge miss by Sweeney losing Bussey because he was forced into taking Korpisalo? We won't know until we see Bussey play NHL games.
Yeah.
We were genuinely, and we won't know until we see Korpisalo play games for the Bruins. If you get the LA Kings version of Jonas Korpisalo and Brandon Bussey plays like Korpisalo did in Ottawa, Sweeney looks like a goddamn genius. However, if you alternate those roles, then he looks like an idiot for the one move. You got to see how some of it plays out. Mav wants to know, is OEL an option? I mean,
Not for me.
left. I wouldn't go for him. I mean, he's an option, but not one that I would be a big fan of going for. Big tough left D for sure is needed. Let's see. Brett says you need to replace middle six PK to replace Jake DeBrusk. Excuse me. Yeah, that was he has Lauko in as a placeholder on what I'm looking at, and that's where I overlooked that one. So we did cover that.
Yeah,
So appreciate you pointing it out.
go to Richard here. Because he's right, and I need to clarify this. So, he did play some wing at UMass, but he's predominantly a center. I should have clarified that. Back home, even internationally for Latvia, I've explained this before with him and his international. He has played more international games than any prospect I ever know. He's up over 80 games already, and he's, 20 years old, which is unheard of. Most pros don't even do that much. And when he was playing in the J20, he was exclusively a centerman. Even for his native Latvia, he's always been a centerman. So he's just learning to play some wing, but let's face it, until he gets to Providence, like, say, Brett Harrison. I mean, Brett Harrison did it all through junior, center or wing.
Right.
He's gotten to Providence and not played any center. I haven't called him a center in probably 3 years because he's a much better winger.
Harrison, you mean?
Right.
Oh yeah, and I saw it last year at camp. He screams winger all the way, but you got to get a little bit more of that physicality out of him, as we've talked about before. Speaking of camp, Mike says believe development camp on July 1st this year. Absolutely. Busy day for the Bruins management. If so, also is the list of players attending out yet? I haven't seen the list of players.
Neither have I.
So it'll be very interesting. I will be going to development camp this year. I got to get the schedule and figure out the details, but I will be going. Hopefully,
if anybody would know if there's a list out, it would be Wally, because he would see it on HF boards if he's still.
I'll have to do some. You know who would know? Google.
Actually, I tried that yesterday, and it wasn't there. No.
Massive pipe dream, but do we think Leon is in play? Been rumored a few times outside B's media. I think a lot of that right now is just click talk. They're just trying to go for clicks, get the big name out there.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling Sweeney has mentioned the Draisaitl name and just been like, if he's available, call me. But for now, I don't think there's any real smoke there yet.
I don't think so.
Not yet. Down the road, we'll keep, that's one to keep an eye on because he's Leon Draisaitl, one of the top 5 players in the league right now. But for right now, no. Kevin is finally jumping in the comments. Yes, you missed the Ullmark talk. It's all at the very beginning. Go back and watch. Let's see. We already covered that one. UMass season ticket holder here. Richard, I'm going to try to get out to some of the UMass games this season. So hopefully I see you at some of those games. Definitely feel free to reach out, and I'll let you know when I am going to those games. Hopefully quite a few this year. Kevin wants to know, is Jake DeBrusk about to Bertuzzi himself?
I think so.
It would make sense. I mean, we know there was an offer made for Bertuzzi last year, and he thought he could do better, and
found out he couldn't.
Yeah, found out he lost out on
the difference between Bertuzzi last year and DeBrusk this year is teams have money to spend this year.
Yes. Yep, and it sounds like per Sean Simpson, Steos is still listening to options on the 7th overall pick. So he may still move it, but not necessarily to us. And then Buchagras just sent out that Todd McClellan's name is gaining traction to be the next coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that their decision should come soon. So
Wow.
those just came through. Thought I'd throw them out there as they just came through. Dom, can I just know how you feel about it? I already got Chris's brain picked.
Feel about what?
The Ullmark trade, I think he's referring to.
Oh, well, I went on a long rant at the beginning of the show that I didn't want to do. So,
You want to give him the short version?
The short version. Different deal than if Ullmark came with an extension.
Do you like this deal? Just a yes or no is sufficient.
No, I don't. Because could have been better if there was a deal signed. So
absolutely. Now, this is a good question for Robert. Will we be doing a draft show and a free agency show?
Well, Robert,
up to you.
I haven't had a chance to talk to Chris about it yet, but for the draft and free agency, I will be doing some work at one of the networks. So I'm out for both.
All right, then. Good to know. I will.
Now,
I will be seeing if I can grab another. I mean, when we do shows like that, I mean, you're talking. There was one free agency show I was a part of, Kevin. I think it was you. You and I were doing a What's Bruin episode for. It was for free agency, and we were on for it was trade deadline special, and we were on for like 6 hours. So there's a lot that goes into those.
Yeah, Kevin should go on it. I remember a few years ago.
We don't need 6 hours of Kevin eating burritos.
No, but I remember a couple of years ago, during the draft, I was working at one of the networks, doing some write-ups and scouting reports on players, and all of a sudden I got like 150 messages on my phone, and there was a screenshot of how NHL Network used my scouting report on their show, and I'm not even in the States, so I go, okay, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they'll grab from anyone that has good information, and we all know you have some of the best info out there. So let's see. Kevin says agreed to no extension didn't work out. No, it slaughtered Boston's end of this deal.
Mm-hmm.
It just gutted it. Absolutely. Joe says grab low call. Joel, were you watching when he and I were doing the watch along last night? I'm just curious because we had a lot of people who tuned in for that. And it was a lot of fun. And after we were done, we were talking about trying to do something. So I'm just curious if you were there yesterday. But he is someone that I've had discussions with when it comes to draft and free agency. So not quite sure yet. Nothing's worked out. We were all trying to get through the cup first. It would have been nice if the Panthers were going to win it. Why couldn't they win it in 4? It would have made our timelines a lot easier to work with. But it is what it is.
Yeah, we'd be in the bio period now.
Yeah, Kevin says we did the deadline where we got Lindholm. Dom, that was fun. Mark also got pissed drunk and crashed out on us.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And then the
wasn't that when
it was on all night because there was nobody to turn it off. It was just Mark's empty room.
That's great. No, there was another one too, Kevin, that we were doing with Dom, and HF boards crashed. Like you had just posted the link for the video, and HF boards completely crashed. It was like 3 years ago or something.
I don't remember. If G. Wally is watching, he'll remember it.
I was going to say, I know HF boards crashed because you came in, you joined, and you were like, it's a damn good thing I just posted that link because HF boards is now out and I'm getting messaged left and right.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember what it was though.
Yeah. We've had some long ones, so that's why we try to keep this to an hour and a half-ish, an hour on the dog days when there's not a lot to go over. But, you know, you guys got questions. We want to be here to answer them and answer them correctly because, as Dom has mentioned, there's a lot. There is a lot of spots out there that just go for the clicks. And, you got to be able to filter out the bullshit. And
Yeah, a lot of it is clickbait. Um, I've talked to people, obviously, here on the podcast. I text a few people, mingle with people on HF boards, but nowhere did you ever see me write an article about the Linus Ullmark trade. I just shared what I knew
when you knew it,
when I knew it, and never wrote an article because I'm not into the clickbait stuff. To me, it isn't. And people appreciate that. That's why they keep coming back to my site. So
and that's the thing. We've got about 740 people watching right now. I'd rather have all 740 of you stick around and nobody else join us because we're doing things correctly and you're getting accurate information from us versus bullshit information from somewhere else and then stressing over, is this correct? Is this correct? Is that correct? Like, you got a source that you can trust. That's what it's all about for us. So that's what we're doing here. And then, yes, Kevin, we did do the, oh my God, I remember when we did the expansion draft with Devin. He writes for the Hockey Writers, covers the Red Wings for them, but all of the picks had been released. It was for the Vegas expansion draft.
Who was that? That was, no, it wasn't Chris Johnson. Who was it that, Frank Saravelli.
He literally had every pick come out. and so we were all pumped for it. We were excited for it. We had seen all the information and we were trying to figure out, like, yeah, we know Saravelli's good, but like he can't literally go 32 for 32. And by 10, we were like, nope, this is totally dead. It's all confirmed. All 32 picks have been confirmed, multiple resources. We were just done. Oh no, it was the Kraken expansion. It was it? No.
Yeah, that was the Kraken. That was the Kraken expansion. Saravelli broke.
Yes, it was.
Which he shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Like,
it was funny to agree, Kevin. It
was funny, but he just took so much away from the fan base and from the organization that day that if it were me, I never would have done it. Never would have done it. Funny story. Okay. I was at a hockey game in Owen Sound, and the media section in Owen Sound has room for 3 people, and I was the only one there. Okay, and then up comes a guy with a laptop, happened to be the bus driver for the Windsor Spitfires. Okay, he had a laptop, and there was only one outlet, and I was sitting beside it. So I let him take my seat so he could plug in his laptop. Then 5 minutes later, I see Warren Reichel, who is the general manager of the Windsor Spitfires. I said, here, Bob, I have my seat. I figure I'd let him sit next to his bus driver. Not long after that comes along Bob Bugner, who was their head coach, who was serving a suspension from the previous game because they had a brawl. So I said, Bob, here, have my seat. Let the 3 of them sit together. And I stood behind them. And it was trade deadline day. Okay. So here is Warren Reichel on his computer, typing away, making his deals. And here I'm on my phone breaking the deals over Twitter as they happen. Okay. And then, like, Bob McKenzie tweeted at me, he says, where are you getting all this? And I took a picture of the 3 of them in front of me sitting down with Reichel on his computer making these trades. And then the Winter Spitfires blocked me on Twitter, never to unblock me again. So I've learned not to do things like that.
That's funny though. Oh man, that's great. And Kevin agrees he shouldn't have done it. And he goes, no, well, the funny part was watching us try to cover it. Oh yeah, uh that was rookie days for us. So we do miss you around here though, Kevin, on camera, even with the food. So I don't know. You guys can hound Kevin to have him come back and do the trade or the draft special or something like that. But no, I know Kevin's enjoying life away from the Twitter sphere. So yes, blocked by an organization. Um, that's an interesting one. There's some people who have me blocked for interesting reasons too. It's funny what happens of who blocks who and the media feuds and how they all start. I mean, here you're sending out information and you're getting into one and you don't even know who it's with.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, did you ever get answers on any of that?
No,
No.
never. It's not called Twitter anymore, Kevin. It's called X.com.
Maybe that's why it went to shit, because it changed its name to X.
Honestly, though, I see a lot of people shitting on it. But if you do your best to block out the noise, it's a great source. It really is.
Bad. Really, what it comes down to is anybody can have their account and a troll account, really, and just go in and cause shit and be a no-name keyboard warrior and whatever. Like right after the game, there was a screenshot of what looked like a Pierre LeBrun tweet that basically said that Leon Draisaitl had held a press conference basically saying that he would play out his contract and look at his options after that. But it was one of those fake accounts that had that extra, the number 0 in it. But someone had taken it, screenshotted it, and ran with it like it was real. And it's just, you got to be careful of that. That's why we do what we do, because we want people to know where they can go. Let's see. It's nothing but noise. I just don't click on comments anymore. I look for news and leave. That's why you're watching us on YouTube.
Yeah.
So anyway, we know what the checklist looks like. We know what the next couple days look like for Sweeney. I hope they get a Swayman extension done. Now, here's my question, and I know we didn't have a lot of chance to talk about it. Ullmark, we know, was looking for 5 years, $7 million. He's obviously not getting that, because at least not from Ottawa, not this year.
Or it would have been done.
So, knowing that Ullmark is not getting 5x7, what can we infer from that about Jeremy Swayman's contract? AFP Analytics has his contract around 5 years, $6.5 million. It's like 6.4 and change or something like that. That being said,
that's too low.
I was going to say, Ullmark is looking 5x7. Term-wise, do you think Swayman is going to look for the home run 8-year deal, or do you think he's going to look for a longer-term bridge deal in that 4 to 6 year range?
No, I think he's looking for the full 8 years. He's 25 now?
Yes, because he is in his last year of restricted free agency.
It'd be 33, and he still has one more deal after that.
I would think he's going for the 8-year deal. But now, because you're buying those extra 3 years essentially of unrestricted free agency from him, his price is going to go up, no?
Yeah, I mean,
what is the max number that you go to on Swayman, especially now that you don't have Linus Ullmark in the picture?
I would go 8.5 max.
That's the number I had in my head.
Yeah, but you know what? There'll be pressure on Swayman from the NHLPA, on Swayman and his agent. Let's say his agent, because he's the one that's going to be doing the negotiations. If you look at the goaltenders coming up, in free agency in the next couple of years.
Shishkin, Ottinger,
Yeah, they're going to be
now.
they're going to be comparing themselves to Jeremy Swayman and Swayman's contract.
He is setting the market.
Not setting. I guess in a way he's setting the market, but he's really setting it up for the next guys.
Yeah.
Because that's when the cap is going to be even higher. And so Swayman is probably being pushed by the PA to hold out for as much as he can get to make it better for the next group.
I would think so. Absolutely. Let's see. Kevin says, I called out people for being armchair GMs on a post on Facebook in a diehard Bruins fan group, and some guy proved my point by crying in reply to me and saying we should have traded Ullmark for Draisaitl. I left the group. I don't have time for this brain rot. That was never going to happen. And anybody who thinks so otherwise, tune in every week and get re-educated, because it's you're listening to bullshit. If you think that was ever in the realm of possibility, stop listening to who you're thinking of. And I know it's not you, Kevin. It's just in general. Point them here. Peter wants to know, is Bussy blocked now? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Max for me, Kevin says on Swayman is in the 8 range, but realistically, I'd like him to take Rask's deal he had.
Yeah, but if he takes Rask's deal at percentage, he's at 9. At percentage of the cap. Yeah, maybe even more.
I would very much be okay with 8, and I would call that a win for Boston too.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, like you said, the NHLPA is going to be sitting there going, they have no leverage. Without you, their guy is Korpisalo. Like, hold out now. Get more.
Oh, believe me, he's under a lot of pressure from Marty Walsh and the PA.
Yeah, luckily Swayman's not negotiating on his own behalf. That's what I'm going to say. How big of a chance right now is there that Swayman goes back to arbitration? I would say 0. Neither side wants.
There's no need for him to. Bruins, first of all, the Bruins can't take him to arbitration. There's no team elected because you can only take a player to a team can only force a player into how do I word this? If a player has already gone to arbitration, you can't take him to arbitration. So in terms of a team, a player can only go to arbitration once in their career, but Swayman could file for arbitration. I just don't think he will.
No,
there's too much money on the line.
Yeah, he's not going to do a 1-year deal for what could amount to be that $6.5 million that AFP. I think if he does a short-term deal, that's where you're looking at 6.5. That's where arbitration would probably come in. That being said, he knows that he can get more, and he will get more than that. Kevin says Swayman makes what right now? Somewhere in the 3 range.
I think it's 3.7.
Yeah, it's not much. He's going to get a significant raise. I'm going to miss Cap Friendly. I've already killed it out of my favorites, and I've been switching over to Puckpedia, but I'm still
3,475,000. Dom.Hockey, Kevin.
I'm just saying I'm going to miss Cap Friendly. That's all. I think we all will. Your numbers are the best.
Easier to read.
It's easier to read, and there have been times where you've been more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time you did the calculation, and you were within $1.
Mm-hmm.
And Cap Friendly was like $150,000 off.
Mm-hmm.
I have Dom Friendly. Yes. We just need to integrate that into our own website. That's all. We'll find a way, Kevin, without you, because, he doesn't want to work with us anymore. Just in comments. Players should realize the more money they go after, the less money available to build a better team around them.
So if my job pays me $50 an hour and There's a fellow that applies for a job next to me. He's not as good as me, but he's better than what's there. Should I take $40 an hour to give him some more money to make sure that he comes on with us?
No, that's not how the world works
No.
at all. And that's why Don Sweeney, that's why Bill Zito, that is why Jim Nill. That's why they get money that they.
Right. The days of Patrice Bergeron team friendly contracts are over.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're done.
Guess what? That's what Don Sweeney's job is. Make the money work. Negotiate deals and find the players. Find the players is the key word that you can get in for a dollar amount that's under the salary cap. And I know there was a lot of backlash about cap friendly, whether the league should have something about it or not, and all that stuff. The argument that I have for why a site like Cap Friendly is needed, Puckpedia is great at it as well, is because as diehards, we do care about the cap because we lost our favorite sport over it.
Yeah.
Gary Bettman canceled essentially an entire season because he wanted the salary cap in place, which meant it was important enough to lose the sport over. So as a fan of the sport, you should care a little bit about the salary cap. I'm not saying you have to know how every dollar is calculated. That's for us diehards to do and explain to you when you don't get it. And that's okay. But to have a tool like that available because you centralized your sport around a hard cap is crucial.
And let's not forget, because some people are mistakenly blaming Gary Bettman for.
I just think he's out of touch.
He's what?
I think he's out of touch.
No.
Where he goes, our fans don't care about that. Yeah, we.
No. People forget so quickly when what's his name? The founder of Cap Geek passed away.
Oh yes.
Okay, and we had two sites pop up, Cap Friendly, and I forget what the other one was called. It started with Fan something, and then they merged into one, and then Puckpedia came along. People got to remember, interview after interview after interview, Gary Bettman did on how the league needs something like that because the interest the fans have in the salary cap.
So
the league went as far as to, and I know this to be factual, to notify Cap Friendly, Puckpedia, all the contract details as soon as they're made available to the league so that they could update their sites. Why would the NHL pay to do it themselves when they had two private individuals doing it and making money for themselves?
Oh, I'm not saying that it has to be done by the league. I'm just saying in the interviews where he says that the fans don't care about it, like he has said that more recently. And that's why I think he's out of touch with what the fans care about.
But remember when they first came out, how supportive he was of it and that fans needed it.
I'm curious what changed for him then. Why does he now feel this way when he felt that way about it before? That would be the question that I think should be followed up with.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Because there are more fans of the NHL now than there were in those days, and the ones now don't give a shit about the cap. The new fans, they don't care. They don't care how the cap works.
Some of them don't. But then they lose their favorite player and they go, why not? And then the salary cap.
And then they don't understand it, but they don't want to know. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And us that have been around for a longer time are being overtaken by those newer fans.
Maybe. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just that's a good explanation for it, and it would make sense. I don't know why anybody didn't ask Bettman that follow-up question. That's all. Kevin says, I wouldn't be able to help with the cap stuff anyways. I took basic geometry part 1 3 years in a row. Well, that's probably because you were in the bathroom after all those burritos. I'm worried there will only be enough money for one top six signing. Am I wrong? You have almost $21 million to work with. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you'll get at least one top six signing. At least one. What's next with the Bruins? Who will they target with a trade or free agency? So hard to predict. Don Sweeney is a man of options. So right now, all of the options are at his feet. And
let's not forget, Don Sweeney is a man of secrecy.
yes. And
none of this Ullmark to Ottawa news was coming from Boston. It was all coming out of Ottawa.
I was going to say absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way it was coming out of Boston. And I think that's part of why we got such a distant a distant read on what it was, because people with the contacts up in Ottawa were hoping, they're trying to put a good light on it, going, we want to get this guy with an extension. With an extension, they'll pay X, Y, and Z. And that's very true. It would have been a very accurate thing to do. Never once did you hear, without an extension, his price comes way down. Everybody in Boston took it as there's an extension, and it's going to be this massive price. And then the extension never happened. So what do you guys think? Are they picking at 25 or moving this pick for more picks or a player to help now? I think they're picking.
I think they're picking.
I just took a shower and now I have ice cream all over my beard. Sounds about right. I'm sure we'll get one top six signing, but I think we need two. Only one would be disappointing. You only need one if you can get. Oh, need is a debatable term. You really need one if it's Lindholm. You need two if you don't get Lindholm. But I just saw the time here, and I did realize that we're going over 8:00 here. So I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's been scrolling across the bottom. Definitely check us out on YouTube. We are also on Twitch, same handle, 6342 Productions for the overall network. But What's Bruin here is What's Bruin 6342 on both of those networks. Subscribe so you know when we go live. We were talking about it during the Ullmark discussions. We were just going to pop on to see who joined us for a live reaction when it happened. Happening 15 minutes before the Cup final kind of prevented that from happening. But stay tuned, subscribe. Anytime we go live, you'll know about it. Kevin says, I think they need two, a top six center and a scoring winger. That would be ideal. I agree. Any final thoughts here as we hit about 10 past 8 here on the East Coast?
No, I think Friday should be interesting. Friday night with the draft. Saturday. Again, I've got my eyes on a few players. If you guys want to look for it, Thursday morning. And then Monday free agency. I expect the Bruins will make a big signing in the first hour.
I think so. I get that feeling too. There'll be big players in free agency. I'm not sure that the draft day will be all that exciting for Boston, but as we kind of sort through the schedule and know more about when we'll be on and all that fun stuff, it'll, follow us on Twitter, What's Bruin 6342 on there as well, for all the updates. And all I'm going to say is have a little patience with Sweeney right now. The offseason just started. You're not winning it day one. It literally just started because the Cup got handed out yesterday, and you did work before that. You got plenty of time. Let the guy do his job. He's kept you in the playoffs for this long. If you had no faith in Don Sweeney over the last 8 years, then there's nothing I can tell you to have faith in him now. So be miserable and find the negative, or choose to be patient. Let him do his fucking job. And then let's look at the roster as it goes into next season. We'll be here for all the news, the reactions, and everything. But we got to let him do his job. He will. So other than that, all I got is